Alrighty everyone, I did it. As promised, I played Fallout 76 Atlantic City America's Playground on the latest PTS, and I have some thoughts I would like to share in today's video. So we're not going to have a long introduction. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, I would really appreciate it. Subscribe if you're new, with notifications if that is possible, but let's get right into this review. So this thing fully releases on the 26th of March, and the reason why I'm saying that now at the beginning is because it is currently part of a PTS. And as a result, it is a little bit buggy. If you try this thing now in the PTS, you will absolutely encounter bugs. And I'm not saying this now to start off the video on a sour note or a negative. It's just the reality of the situation, and it's okay. We are literally play testing this thing early for Bethesda Game Studios. We have to expect some element of jankiness and some bugs in our playthrough. There's no other way around it. There is literally a Discord available for us to report the bugs that we encounter, and even Bethesda Game Studios on that Bethesda Net article provided us a list of known bugs to say, hey, you're probably going to encounter these in your playthrough, but we know of them, we're aware, and we are working on them. Hopefully, come the 26th of March, those bugs are stamped out and it's a much smoother experience. But currently there are bugs, you just can't let that sour your experience. So I'm actually going to say, for the vast majority of you, if you want to give this thing a solid go, wait. Wait until the 26th of March. You're going to have, hopefully, a much better experience. Plus as well, there is going to be a new season and apparently some new changes to the seasons where, and this is their words, not mine, they're aiming to offer more flexibility when earning a reward. So with that and the stamping out of bugs and just everything being a bit smoother, I would recommend wait until the 26th of March. But if you want to play it now, just know you're going to encounter some bugs. So as I said, I did play it early and I did encounter some bugs, and these are the ones that I encountered. So first of all, when I first entered the Rose Room to first meet the Russo family, a lot of the patrons were already dead, all right? And this was obviously a result of the next part in the quest, and because of that, it got a little bit bugged and I couldn't progress until I reloaded into a new world. After I did that, that was fine, so it wasn't necessarily game breaking, because game breaking is that you just can't progress whatsoever. But I was able to progress after reloading the world. It was just a little bit weird during that one world and playthrough. Also as well, you are going to encounter issues with dialogue and conversations throughout this thing. A lot of times with the camera will just not work properly. Like sometimes it just swings around into weird locations. Sometimes the characters aren't looking at you when you're talking to them. And oftentimes there are very long, awkward pauses in the middle of conversations. Now again, Bethesda Game Studios did mention that if you were to skip a lot of lines of conversations and dialogue, you might encounter those pauses, but I swear to God, I did not skip anything and I still encountered those pauses. So that was a little bit annoying because I'm kind of waiting like, what's going on? This is a bit weird, say something. But it wasn't the end of the world. Also as well, I did encounter that one known bug where, I'm not going to mention the characters because I'm not talking about spoilers in this video, but there were two characters that appeared at a location when they clearly weren't meant to. It was part of a ladder, section of the quest. So that was weird seeing them there because it completely ruined the vibe of the story. And also as well as part of an expedition, there's this one character which you need to talk to complete a lot of the optional side stuff, and you just can't talk to him, and that was a known bug as well. Expeditions had a couple of bugs, and I'll talk about one of them later when I talk about Expedition specifically, that really did ruin my experience. But again, it's a PTS, there are meant to be bugs, that is okay. And finally, the thing that was really unfortunate because I really wanted to play it, there was one side quest that just wouldn't activate for me. Like the side quests are activated by going to this board in the White Springs, and you can just start them there. Two of them worked. There are 3 side quests in total. 2 of them worked, but one of them about the journalist that died just didn't work, and I couldn't start it and I couldn't even try it. And I was disappointed because the 2 side quests that I played were really good. I really enjoyed them. So I'm like, I really want to play this third one because I think it's going to be a similar level of quality. But unfortunately, I could not, so I can't tell you my experiences of that side quest. So anyways, that's just for me to tell you there are bugs. Those are the bugs that I encountered, some of the little ones as well, but I'm not going to let that ruin my experience of Atlantic City Part 2. I am playing a PTS after all. So let's talk about Expeditions next. I've been pretty negative towards expeditions as a whole. I just don't vibe with them. They're not for me, but I wanted to give them a solid go. So in Atlantic City Part 2, or America's Playground, there is a new third expedition called the Human Condition. And essentially you need to help the mayor and the municipal government fight off the Overgrown, right? There are 2 existing expeditions. I'll talk about those as well. But that's the new one if you've already played Atlantic City. It was Boardwalk's Paradise or whatever it was called. So first time around, they're all right. They're fun. They're all right because there are some new story elements as well that kind of put the expeditions into context. You're not just doing them for random reasons. Story-wise, lore-wise, there is a reason. So it makes a lot of sense the first time around. You can essentially treat it like a little bit of a side quest if you want. But that's the first time around. The whole point of expeditions is to do them again and again and again and again. So you need to kind of keep that in mind. When you do the first time, you're like, oh, well, this is fun. It's not going to be as fun on the 20th time. That's the reality of expeditions, right? And that's why personally I have never really liked them. But talking about them as expeditions with that in mind, they're typical expeditions. You kill a lot of enemies, you complete tasks, there are some optional stuff for you to do so you can get more rewards. There is a final boss, and then you leave. And then as a result, you get stamps, which you can kind of trade in to get some rewards, as I mentioned, whether camp items or skins or whatever it is. Now, these expeditions are better than the pit. I personally prefer these ones, and some are definitely better than the others. So my most favorite one was the most sensational game. That was one of the existing ones. But where you take on the twins and the other combatants, I actually like that one. That was fun, though I did encounter that bug, and I'll talk about that in a second. The Human Condition was fairly stock standard, the new one. You just did some meaningless tasks, kill some Overgrown, and that was it. But the tax evasion one, I didn't like, because finding those terminals, they're in weird locations, the quest line doesn't point you in the right freaking direction. I couldn't find the one on the stage tucked behind the other stuff. That one wasn't fun to me. Just that one aspect, but it kind of ruined my whole experience of the expedition. So this is the whole point of expeditions. It's repeat gameplay. It's meant to keep you coming back. And ideally, there are some cool rewards for you to get. So it's not necessarily the fun that you're having in the moment. It's about the end result. It's about the stuff that you're getting right at the end when you have enough stamps. But that loading, there's a bug, right? And it's called, I'll call it the loading screen bug, that I encountered in 2 of the expeditions when I played them, especially the most sensational game, and I was really annoyed because I was enjoying it, right? It's a bug where when you enter into a new room, sometimes it just boots you out into Appalachia. Now, the silver lining is that you can actually just go back to Atlantic City and resume the expedition where you were. It doesn't completely stop it, but the problem is if you encountered that bug once when going into a room, it's probably going to happen again and again and again and again. So during the most sensational game, I encountered it like 4 times before I stopped trying because it just kept happening. So I couldn't finish the expedition. That was annoying. They really do need to fix that. But overall, if you like expeditions, I think there's a lot to like here. If you don't like expeditions like me, you're not going to vibe with it. Like, you need to want to do this to get all the rewards. That is the reality of the situation. But if you don't like that grind, if you don't like that loop, there's nothing new or exciting to find here. Even though they did improve the expeditions versus the pit, I will say that they absolutely did. And I like the story elements when they were new and fresh. So now let's talk about the main quest, probably like the biggest element of Atlantic City, America's Playground. And I tell you what, I really liked it. I really, really like this main quest. I want to start off by saying this is not the most earth-shattering, world-changing, innovative quest you're ever going to play, let alone even in Fallout. But I thought it was a solid quest line, and I had a lot of fun. So the plot is, I'm not going to spoil it for you, this is the vague generic plot that even Bethesda Game Studios told us about publicly. But essentially, a family called the Russos, they fled to Appalachia from Atlantic City. They're looking to start a new nightclub, but they have various dark paths from Atlantic City that they can't escape from, and that's where you need to go in and help them out, right? And it revolves around this new dangerous chem called Devil's Blood, and I'll leave it there, right? So it is multi-mission. Bethesda Game Studios wasn't lying. There were multiple times as I was playing it where I was like, oh no, is this thing gonna end now? Because that's gonna be way too short. But no, it's multi-mission, and they're pretty fairly like distinct and different. There are various things that you're doing in each of these missions. It's not just go talk to this person and that's it. They were actually fun. I enjoyed them. I definitely did. And in terms of length, about 3 to 4 hours. More towards 3 if you really rush it and you have a good build and you can just wipe through enemies. And more towards the 4-hour point if you take your time, listen to every line of dialogue, and just, don't try and rush the thing. And I'm thinking, that's all right. That's solid. Here's the thing. We're getting this content effectively for free, right? Years and years after Fallout 76's launch. I'm okay with it. Do I wish it was longer? Do I wish it was Wastelanders sized? Yes, but I've accepted the reality of the situation. I've accepted how many people are probably still left working on Fallout 76. This is the stuff that we're getting. If we just got Expeditions, I'd be pissed off. I'd be so angry because I don't like Expeditions. But the fact that we're also getting this kind of multi-mission main quest that is 4 hours long, to me, that feels like a DLC. I'm fine with that. Yeah, it is a little bit on the short side. It's a little bit on the short side like Still Rain was, like Still Dawn was. But I'm okay with it. I'm okay because I didn't have to pay, and it was free, and it was easy to play, and then I backed out and I was happy. You know what I mean? So I will say it was a solid questline. I thought it was interesting, not to spoil anything, but I thought all of the interactions with the mob, I love the mob in Atlantic City. They're funny, they're charismatic. I think all the characters were actually quite eclectic, especially in the Russo family. Like, you'll come to know them. They really, really do try to have you get to know these characters. And they're each different, they're not stock standard, and they try to play off each other, nicely. Again, it's not the most, innovative stuff in the world, but I actually like the characters. I like the family. I enjoyed getting to know them and seeing their relationships build between each other. And the one thing that I'll say, I thought it was pretty funny at times. I audibly chuckled and laughed at numerous times in this questline, especially because of the mob. The stuff the mob says is just absolutely hilarious. I'm actually really glad they included the family mob in Atlantic City. I thought they were great. And the one thing that I'll say is that this thing is dialogue heavy. There's a lot of dialogue, and some will say that they just include a lot of dialogue to artificially push out the questline, so there's less actual stuff to do. But I liked the dialogue. I thought the dialogue was actually, they put a bit of effort into it. And there were some really fun moments that I won't spoil for you in the questline that were actually cool and different and unique, especially with the showmen. There's one bit about clowns. I'm not going to spoil it, but that was pretty weird and hilarious. And there's also, I will mention, various elements of choice in this questline. Are these going to completely change the landscape of Appalachia and even of Atlantic City? No. The choices and the consequences are pretty self-contained within Atlantic City and within the questline. But there are choices, there are things that you can decide upon, and that's going to affect how certain elements of the story actually ends, which is cool. It's nice to have. And as expected, it's Fallout 76. Loads of combat sequences. You're not going to be without a lot of shooting, a lot of killing of enemies. I will say as well, the main boss, I won't spoil it, was enjoyable. And I hope that we get it as a repeat boss, kind of like the Wendigo Colossus and other ones. I hope it comes to even Appalachia, but Atlantic City, if there's a way that we can keep killing that boss for certain rewards. I could be wrong. I don't think there's currently a way, but if there was, that'd be freaking awesome. And as expected, you can get, rewards for completing the quest lines, different camp items and skins and stuff like that. The one thing that I'll say about the questline is that sometimes there is awkwardness here and there. Sometimes I just saw characters walking along side by side with the overgrown enemies, and I'm like, why aren't they attacking you? Why aren't you scared? Why aren't you attacking them? Really weird scripting with some of the characters during that questline. Plus as well, there is a twist. I'm not going to spoil it. There is a twist. But how it was revealed was so stupid to me. I wish I could tell you about it, but it was kind of like this reveal, and I'm like, how the hell did none of you know about this? It was stupid. Anyways, you'll see what I mean when you play it. So overall, I enjoyed the main storyline. I really did like the Russo family. I liked getting to know them. I love the mob aspect and the underpinning storyline of Atlantic City and learning about the machinations and how they're interacting and why the Russos fled in the first place. Really cool. I thought it was solid. It's not up there with some of the best side quests or quests that you're ever going to encounter in the Fallout franchise, but for what it was, I thought it was fun. But let's talk about the side quest, man. Again, the first one, the one about the dead journalist, was bugged, so unfortunately I couldn't test that out. And I had this feeling that it would be good because the other two were good. They're short, yes, sure, but they were fun, man. So the two other ones are called Regent of the Dead and Custodial Compulsions. Custodial Compulsions was a great little side quest. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but please play it, because that one's actually not that buggy at all. So if you want to play it early, do it, please. I loved Custodial Compulsions. I got, like, do you remember the Andal quest line in Fallout 3? First thing that I thought it was really, really cool. I liked the way that it ended as well. It was a cool choice that you got. And also Region of the Dead, as part of that, you come to know more about the mob, more about the storyline, you know, who's in charge, some of the big family members, the kingpins, if you will. I liked that one too, because I like the element of the mob storytelling. Those two side quests, yeah, maybe I think those two between them, probably like an hour long or so, maybe another 30 minutes for that journalist one, not having played it. But just over an hour for the side quest, in addition to 3 to 4 hours for the main quest, you're getting, in terms of new story quest content, a solid minimum 5 hours plus. I think that's all right. I think that's pretty cool. I do wish, though, there were more side quests, because this kind of feeds into exploration of Atlantic City. It was such a cool location, and I was just hoping, as I would talk to people that were named characters in particular, I was hoping that 1 or 2 more side quests could pop up, but from what I saw, it is literally just those 3. So maybe it's a good thing that they left me wanting more. But I wish there was at least 4 or 5. That would have been a nice number. Though, if it was 4 or 5, I probably would have asked for 6 or 7, you know what I mean? But let's, as I mentioned, talk about exploration. So the big thing about this Atlantic City thing is that not only are you just going there to do the expeditions, but you can actually just explore. You can explore the 3 locations of the flooded city center, the casino quarter, and the boardwalk. So each of those locations are essentially controlled by the 3 different factions, or the kind of groups or mobs in the game. So there's the family, the actual mob, which controls the casino area. There's the municipal government, or the munis, which are in the flooded city center. And the showmen are the ones that run the kind of city's entertainment in the boardwalk area. So it's a really cool location. It's nice to explore. It's unique. I like the kind of how different each location was. Like, the boardwalk is very visually different to the casino area. The casino area is very visually different to the flooded city center. And especially the casino area, like, if you love New Vegas and the Strip, you'll be right at home. I thought it was actually pretty cool. Not as many casinos and things to enter into, but for what it was, I thought it was fun to explore, especially the first time. And you can chat to some local merchants. You can do a little bit of gambling. That's the big, thing in the casinos. You can actually gamble, play some different card games, do some slots. That was fun. It's fun for like the first few games, and then you're like, well, then I'm done. But you know what I mean? At least you can play them. It's kind of like Fallout New Vegas, but just not as fleshed out. But I will say, though, that I wish there were more characters to talk to. There's a lot of unnamed civilians that you just can't talk to, and even some named characters, that you can't talk to because they're part of an expedition, and so they otherwise don't have any other dialogue. Other characters you can, like this is a character called Sal Sticky Fingers, who is part of an expedition, but you can still talk to outside of the expedition. But you can't talk to everyone that's named outside of expedition. So I was hoping there would be a little bit more to do when exploring these locations, because aside from just like kind of going through them in the first place and seeing them and enjoying the sights, aside from that and talking to some characters, that's about it. Like, there's no other reason, in my opinion, to go back unless you had an expedition or something else to do. And then we talk about the enemies. So there are essentially 2 new enemies or styles of enemies in Atlantic City. There are the Jersey Devils, which are kind of like weird Deathclaw-like cryptids that were actually fun. They're fun to kill, they're fun to take down, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but they feed into a bigger thing in some elements of the storyline. And then there are the Overgrown. So the Overgrown are essentially it's a new enemy. They've always been attacking Atlantic City. But essentially, they are just ghouls and floaters and super mutants that look a different way, and they attack you in the same way. They're just reskinned. A little bit disappointing. I was hoping that the enemies would be brand new. I can understand dev-wise, it was much easier for them just to use the same character models and the animations and the scripting of those enemies attacking you and just reskinning them. I understand that would have saved so much time and development, but you know what? That's all right. Like, it's not the worst thing at the end of the world. I was just hoping that the Overgrown are a unique enemy, because I would have liked to have seen like these cool different variants of enemies that had grass and plants growing from them. Instead, they were just ghouls and super mutants. So anyways, I was a little bit disappointed by that. But overall, I do want to give my closing thoughts on Atlantic City, America's Playground. So I enjoyed it. right? I definitely enjoyed it. I think it was absolutely worthwhile. If this thing was like $10 or the price of a regular DLC, I probably would have been satisfied with my purchase. And the thing is, this is free content that we're able to play. You don't have to pay for anything or anything like that. If you have not played Fallout 76 for a long time and you just want to come back, play the new story, see how the lore is, because this essentially is helping us expand into the lore of New Jersey in the Fallout universe. So that's pretty cool. It's cool to know what happened to Atlantic City, how it's still thriving after the war. That aspect is awesome. So if you haven't played Fallout 76 in a while and you just want a new story quest to kind of go through and complete, I think it's going to satisfy you, absolutely. If you were paying for it, maybe I'd be less confident in recommending it, even though I personally would have been satisfied with that. But it's free, so go play it, enjoy it, you're going to have fun. For long-standing Fallout 76 players that were looking at more content for the game to try and satisfy you, yes, you're going to have a nice fun night or two with all the new story content, but it's more expeditions. So you have to make that decision yourself. Do you like expeditions or do you not? If you like expeditions, if you like the process of grinding, getting stamps, getting all those items in the shop, then this is right up your alley. You're going to have fun. If you don't like expeditions, if you don't like the typical endgame grind of Fallout 76, this is not changing anything for you. And you kind of, and I've already accepted this, we kind of just have to accept that this is Fallout 76. This is how they've decided to operate the game moving forward, to try and get people to come back and keep playing day to day and week to week. I wish it was something a little bit different, but this is the direction that they've decided to go in. At the very least, there was still new story content and quest lines for me to enjoy, and I was a happy man as a result of that. So let me know what you think in the comments below, Wastelanders. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourselves, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.